Welcome to your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 187. If you are writing a book or thinking about it, or maybe you've started writing your book but you're having some trouble finishing it, or maybe you're at the stage where you've written your book but you need help reaching your readers to let them know about it, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Christine Whitmarsh, also known as Christine Inc., I-N-K, like the stuff you write with. Each day I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 18 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that three things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and these three things have the ability to turn someone who doesn't necessarily consider themselves a writer or an author into one. They are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. Here's today's quote. "Everything I learned from the movies." Audrey Hepburn. Now, that might seem a little contradictory since we're sitting here talking about books and the power of books all the time, but let's play Hollywood today because there is a connection. There are actually many parallels between filmmaking and being an author. So have you ever wanted to pretend you're a famous filmmaker or an actor? Well, what if I told you that as an author, you have the same ability to create a wildly imaginative, thought-provoking story the same way they do in Hollywood? I'm going to tell you today why you already have the power to do that. But first, let me explain a little bit about the imagination void that seems to be happening out there in La La Land and why we as authors have the opportunity to fill that void. A little in way of film history, back in the late 1990s when I was living out in Los Angeles studying acting and trying my hand at screenwriting and directing and producing and doing all the indie films and festivals and all the things, the indie film movement, as it was called then, was firing up the film industry and creating all sorts of new opportunities for filmmakers, including screenwriters. The independent film movement was giving Hollywood a run for its money, producing quality products at a fraction of the cost. And, I recall spending just hours and hours and hours in movie theaters. I couldn't get enough. All the indie movies, I loved them. I love how character focused they are. How they took kind of universal life situations and they made them into like really, really interesting premises, gave them really interesting twists. My favorite movie theater, I think it's not there anymore, was the Laemmle Theater at Sunset in Laurel Canyon out in LA. And I would sit there with my trusty notebook and pen. I always had them with me because I knew there was going to be like this flow of inspiration from the indie movies on the screen right into my brain. So always, as authors, I'm sure everybody relates, always have that notebook handy. You never know when you're going to be inspired. But for me, I can almost guarantee it's going to happen when I'm around art, whether it's an art museum or a music concert or movies. If there's creativity around, it's going to fall into my brain. And so at that time, there seemed to be no shortage of fresh story ideas and filmmakers to tell those stories. Creatively, it was a time when anything seemed possible. Now, flash forward to recently, and actually still now, when the movie The Joker is shattering box office records, it's kind of a nice mix, honestly, of the action-adventure superhero and then the humanity of, a very troubled person. But, overall, financial-wise, it is inserting itself among the ranks of other comic book-based films that dominate movie theaters today. It seems to me as if fewer and fewer non-superhero movies are making it through Hollywood's once gilded golden gates. Fresh story ideas, something not proven, might just be too much of a gamble for studios these days. In books, the gamble that seems to be causing stress for traditional publishers is signing authors who lack platforms. Now, we're not going to go too deep into author platforms here, but that's basically your online presence, for lack of a better way of describing it, your website, email list, social media following, all the things that can provide evidence that you have book selling power. So two different kind of nervousness in the big industries, Hollywood not really taking a chance on unproven stories, and the same with publishers not taking chances on unproven authors. Fortunately, though, especially for those of us here in book world, as authors, we don't need permission to bring our stories to life. The best part of being an indie author is whether your book idea is an epic out-of-this-world miniseries that spans time and worlds, or it's more of an indie film, a character-based dialogue fest that takes place entirely at a coffee house or a studio apartment. It doesn't matter. Your self-publishing budget is essentially the same. You can tell as small or as big of a story you want. And if you're self-publishing it as your own book, it still costs the same. In movies, we're talking about a couple $100 million differential between those two story ideas. So think about that. As an author, we have the freedom that many screenwriters, especially new ones, do not have. We don't need budget pre-approval from a huge studio to tell our stories and have them seen by others. We are the writers, directors, producers, crew members, and all the actors in our own movies. For those reasons and more, I'm excited to be an author. All the opportunities that it affords us, I love being an author. Screenwriting was fun, especially dreaming about my words being on the big screen and all that, but required a whole lot of permission. And personally, I'll take the power and true independence of being an author any day. Thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I'm helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. Be sure and drop by my Inc. Authors group on Facebook for motivation, accountability, book writing, publishing resources, and more. And if you know someone else who wants to write a book, let them know about Your Daily Writing Habit on Amazon Alexa, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, all the places with the podcasts. Until tomorrow, happy writing.